Welcome into Campus2Canton's coverage of the early signing day here on the Campus2Canton YouTube page. We're dressed up. We dress up for this every year. It's an occasion.
Yeah.
You know, this is one of our favorite things, I think, to cover. Matt and I, we've done this show probably 4 years now, I think. So we've been doing this for a few years.
Yeah, I don't think we did it the first year, but yeah, I'm pretty sure every year after that we've done it. I think it is really the only time we dress up. Besides, we did dress up one time with Felix to call the Alabama, and I think a national championship game as well. We dressed up as.
Oh, did we dress up for that too? Yeah,
I'm pretty
occasionally.
sure we did. So
These are our Sunday best, yes, to cover here with you. We're going to be going for about an hour and a half here. Trying to hit a lot of the news. We'll mix in, kind of what classes are looking like here as they start shaping up. We get more and more official signings coming in, and then we're actually going to go live again later tonight as well, 8:30 Eastern. Is that what time we have it currently set to? So right around there, with a few more members of the recruiting team, because we've got an awesome team here at Campus2Canton, just kind of breaking down the day after the fact a little bit. We've had I don't think this day has been as crazy as maybe some of the prognosticators would have had you believe, at least for the positions that we care about here. But we have had some flips. Some guys say they're not signing today. Some players decommit really over the last 24 to 48 hours. So we're going to try to cover some of those here to lead off the show. Let's start with flips, and let's actually start with the one that just happened most recently, Matt. Right before we came, I was telling Matt I had to switch my graphic from a nice not committing today graphic to a flip graphic, and that's Legend Bay, the athlete, we'll call him, who was committed to Tennessee many moons ago, flipped to Ohio State, and now back to Tennessee here on signing day after saying that he wasn't going to be signing anywhere. Bay, high school quarterback, listed as an athlete by the services. Ohio State wanted him to play running back. I read just a real quick blurb from 24/7 that happened that they put out right after the flip. They're still saying that Tennessee wants him as a wide receiver. Maybe that they've loosened on that stance a little bit, and that's how they got him to flip or what. I don't really know. Maybe we'll get some more details on that over the next few hours, few days here. But you can just see Bay here, a 99.2% athlete in our database. Basically, a handful of players have been better athletes than him at the running back position amongst the thousands that we have there. You can see he's our RB14. I don't know what position, like I said, he'll end up playing here. Listed weight fluctuates anywhere between 180, 195 pounds. So, decent size there. Matt, you're an Ohio State guy. Taking that out of the equation, though, interesting development here on signing day today.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with Brian Hartline. So Brian Hartline accepted the USF job earlier today. I'm sure some of this also has to do with just NIL money. Tennessee is one of the schools not afraid they weren't really afraid to be pretty open and honest about throwing the McDonald's bags at people beforehand. Now, even more so, they can do that legitimately. Obviously, that's how they got Tristan Keys flipped as well from LSU. I'm sure we'll talk about here at some point in time today. I think it's a decent get for Tennessee. On the Ohio State side, I really don't think it hurts him as much as the possible other player who has currently not signed his paperwork that was committed. They obviously also lost Caden Dixon-Wyatt. So Ohio State at the moment is kind of bleeding some offensive recruits. I believe Guilford is not signed as well yet for them, who is supposed to sign as a wide receiver as well, who's supposed to sign today. And I think a lot of this is coming from the Brian Hartline side of things. He, again, as I mentioned, took the USF job. I tweeted out when it happened, does Ohio State lose its quote-unquote wide receiver U status? It is a school that has been known to develop wide receivers, and a lot of that has been because of Brian Hartline. And I think that is why they're possibly losing out on some of these players. You mentioned Ohio State wanted him to play running back. They had also mentioned they wanted him to be in that Curtis Samuel role. So they wanted to put him in the slot at times and use him as a wide receiver, which it sounds like at least right now Tennessee wants to use him exclusively as you said. So I don't think it's a big loss for Ohio State because they haven't really used anybody in that role since Urban Meyer. Even when Ryan Day came in and was the offensive coordinator, they really didn't have a player that moved around a ton. JSN moved around a little, but for the most part was kind of in the slot or outside. Same thing with a player like Garrett Wilson. So I don't know that this is really a massive loss for Ohio State. It sucks to lose an athlete like him, but I think at the end of the day, they'll be fine. They're probably more worried about some of the other players who have not currently signed.
Well, you mentioned it, so let's talk about Caden Dixon-Wyatt here. One of I think the Ohio State wide receiver class coming into today looked like two bigger names in Chris Henry Jr., Caden Dixon-Wyatt, and then a bunch of guys that we think probably never really play there. It would be pretty shocking if they do at any sort of like meaningful level. And Dixon-Wyatt flipped today. There'd been some smoke on this. I don't think this is too much of a surprise per se. If you've been following along with this recruitment, he's a modern day kid, so he's from California there. But flipping there to USC. I mean, you can see here 6'1", 180 pounds, about a 52nd percentile athlete in our database. We have him as our wide receiver 23. The composite has him as wide receiver 21. So we are right kind of in the same ballpark there.
Yeah.
I don't know that this hurts. This is a killer for USC, as you mentioned, or for Ohio State, as you mentioned, but definitely lowers the the mess ups that they can afford elsewhere here. I mean, that in terms of like meaningful quality depth that they might have at wide receiver next year.
Yeah, especially again if they don't get some of these other guys. I mean, I think I was a little bit higher on Caden Dixon-Wyatt than you guys were. I had him as a high end 3-star. He's a wide receiver I thought was interesting, really quick feet, seemed to be able to get open deep. I thought he had strong hands, very good ball tracking, had some yak ability, showed some, as I mentioned, ability to make plays after the catch, was quite physical at the catch point. Definitely thought there was places he could improve. I thought that there were times, the offense kind of hid him, got him the ball quickly and some screens and everything. Definitely seemed to line up inside, stacked behind a lot of or other receivers at times. On the Ohio State side, they haven't. If we really think about it, is Jeremiah Smith the real kind of only wide receiver they've landed over the past couple of years? I mean, for what Brian Hartline has done at the wide receiver position. Typically, I think if you go back even a couple years before that, the players they were bringing in on a consistent basis, like again, we weren't really super high on Julian Fleming, but he was the number one wide receiver for a lot of the services. He was a very good athlete. Like they were still bringing in these highly rated guys. They haven't quite done that over the past couple of years. And so, yeah, losing a player like Caden Dixon-Wyatt, why he may not be a high-end 5-star, some guy that was going to be possibly not be some like game changer at the college football level. You still need guys like him to play wide receiver to help you. And losing him, I do think is going to hurt Ohio State a little bit in the long run.
It is funny that you mentioned that because at the times that some of these guys were coming in, like we were a little bit forced to rank Quincy Porter highly, even though we were pretty skeptical on him because of how high it seemed like the staff was on him and the fact that he really was the only quality potential option that came in that class. We did like who's the guy that came in 2 years ago that didn't play it all year one? He's like a slot guy.
Brandon Innes?
No, not Innes. Year after Innes.
Oh, God, I liked him too. He was from Mylan Graham.
Yes, Mylan Graham, and he didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, they've kind of been like it's been one a year really that we thought that's a guy who can probably play at Ohio State. So with Dixon-Wyatt flipping, I mean, for USC, I think it's a good get. They'll probably lose Lane out of their wide receiver group this year. They have Tino Kynes returning. That's really the only meaningful production I think that they have on the roster. And even him, I think, is better as like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option. They do have Booby Feaster. I'm sure we'll talk about him in a little bit. Yeah. They have Dixon-Wyatt now. Maybe that's the group that they're rolling with next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that USC's got a very interesting class. As far as I've seen, I was actually pretty high still on Trent Mosley. I actually believe I have Mosley fairly closely graded to Caden Dixon-Wyatt, just below him. And another wide receiver they have in their class currently, Luke Weaver, who I have as like a low-end 3-star. So they're bringing in a lot of really interesting options. Again, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, as you mentioned, ranked just a little bit higher in the composite rankings than us, but he was a player that it seemed a lot of schools liked, is from the area as well, playing for Mater Dei, one of the high-end high schools in the nation, considered one of the best high schools in the nation. So I do think it's a good get for them. And yeah, just kind of adds more, what's the word here? Just adds more talent to that room to possibly give more of these guys a chance to kind of pop and be the next guy with the talent that they're losing this year to the NFL draft.
Some other flips here. We're going to try to cover a bunch of these here just right off the rip, since that's what the live shows for. Jordan Clay. I think this actually technically happened yesterday, maybe late last night. Wide receiver flipping from Baylor to Washington. An interesting one because he is, I believe, a Texas kid. He's from down south. So, a last second flip like this. Dave Aranda. We've talked about this, Mr. Aranda.
Yeah.
6'3", 200. He's kind of the only real big-bodied guy that Washington is bringing in this year, / maybe we'll even have on the roster next year. So that makes him maybe intriguing from that perspective. 32nd, 33rd percentile athlete in our database. We have him as our wide receiver 61, though. We are not super high on him. The composite has him as wide receiver 28. Kind of a big physical guy. Not a great separator, really, quite frankly, at all. Real physical catch point, jump ball, kind of player. So, you kind of can see the athleticism score there. Not ideal there either. Do we have a production score on him? I tried to pull for as many of these guys as I can, but we might not have one for him. We don't. So, going to be an interesting player, but definitely gives Washington a little something different in their class.
Yeah, I mean, Clay is a interesting wide receiver. I think he could possibly go into Washington. I don't know that he starts year one.
No.
But chance. I mean, is a guy that at least gives them, as you mentioned, kind of a different look right now. I mean, as you mentioned, we've got him at 6'2", 200. He is very physical at the catch point. He, I believe, hurdled in high school, according to my notes. So he uses that to his advantage. He is not afraid to go up and challenge the ball at the high point. He is very, very good at that. I thought he was fairly good after the catch as well. But yeah, separation was the big thing for him. Just not very good at creating separation at the line or within the route. He could create some separation deep down the field. I think some of the track speed there. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a really good athleticism score for him. We're a little bit separate on the services. And I don't know that Baylor lost out on a massive player today. But again, that probably just speaks overall to Dave Aranda. Just losing recruits in general is probably not good.
Yeah, I don't think they have a lot to go back to the well on there. Peyton Falzone, another snap situation.
I did not see this.
Oh, this probably dropped. You must have been driving home from work because I know, Matt, you came straight from work to this momentous occasion. Flip this afternoon is one of only 2 Penn State signees on the day, and it makes sense. He's a local kid. He's from Nazareth. It's not too far away there from State College. A decent get for Penn State, considering they've lost all the QB recruits that they kind of had in this class, and again was once committed there anyway. 6'4", 6'4.5", 200 pounds, 98th percentile athlete, has a 57 mile per hour max throwing velocity. If you listen to any of our shows or anything like that, you know that 52 to 55 ish range is like kind of an average to good college arm. So you start creeping closer to 60 miles per hour there, you're starting to hit elite territory. So he's got all the physical tools. He's a good runner, all that kind of stuff. We've got him at QB 13. The composite has him at QB 20. We value some of that athleticism and stuff a little higher from a fantasy perspective, which is what we're covering these guys from. But an interesting flip because he does feel like a guy that maybe could have worked for an Alex Golesh, who is now the coach at Auburn. I think he could have functioned in that offense. It's not like he wants something completely different. So maybe a kid just wanted to go back home.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he would have stayed, the big question would have been, how long does he sit behind Deuce Knight, right? Assuming Deuce Knight doesn't transfer out. So I actually don't hate this for him at the moment. We obviously don't know what this coaching staff is going to look like, what chances he may have of being possibly a starting quarterback in, say, year 2, because I do think he still needs to improve a little bit. I was pulling up, because I know we were high on him. You and Matt might have been even higher than me, but I had him as a high 3-star. I had him right now with a 0.676 grade. Yep. So a high 3-star. I liked him a lot. He can use his legs, as you mentioned, really strong arm. He is not afraid to fire that ball in there. Very fun player to watch. I think he was one of my favorite players as we were kind of going through the year watching players. One of my favorite quarterbacks and kind of a sneaky guy that I was watching. And I think we'd even talked about on the episode him possibly flipping because of Deuce Knight. And I like I said, I don't mind the landing spot. A lot of this is just going to depend on the coaching staff, who Penn State ends up getting, because that pool is also drying up very quickly on the available head coaches. Whoever they end up getting, and if they're willing to allow this guy to play a little bit of backyard ball, which is something that I don't think Penn State's had in quite a while. And if they do that, I mean, athletically, probably arm-wise, like he's more exciting than Grunkmeyer. I mean, Grunkmeyer wasn't horrible for Penn State toward the end of the year after he got a couple starts under his belt, but I think, new coaching staff and everything, if they really like Falzone, I don't know, they let him start year one, but, maybe there's a shot he's starting in year two. He's a very fun player.
Yeah, I think year one would be a disaster, but who knows? Corey Barber, one of the, I think there's only been a couple of guys as of now that have flipped from Ole Miss to LSU and followed Lane Kiffin over that way. Barber is our wide receiver 32, wide receiver 25 overall in the composite, 6'1.5". 185 pounds, not an amazing athlete. He's got decent long speed, but some of the other metrics, not ideal for him, but he does have a pretty nice production score. I believe it's over 80th, 85th percentile. So he's been productive thus far through his high school career. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of got that prototypical, can kind of play a little bit of everywhere type skill set right now. So going to be interesting with LSU to see kind of how their class shifts here over the next coming, days and weeks. Cause we're going to talk, I mean, they lost Kenny Darby today. We'll see what other wide receiver shakeups there are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not only did they lose Kenny Darby, again, before Kiffin got there, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, they lost Tristan Keys as well, which was a big loss. But this, I mean, look, again, we may not have a great athleticism score on there. You mentioned his production score. For those of you who don't know, I mean, 70 plus catches for 1,500 yards and almost 20 touchdowns in his junior year. Absolutely dominant, incredible production in that junior season. And an interesting wide receiver. Again, he's not the tallest player there at 6'1", 180. I forgot he flipped from Ole Miss. Yeah. So an interesting player. I'll be curious to see how this works out because he is going into a pretty open room. I mean, me and Chris K talked a lot about that on C2C Live last night. There's not a lot of wide receivers I think you trust in that room. This could be a completely different LSU team next year taking the field in week one with Lane Kiffin. So I don't know that he's going to be a guy that I'm targeting in my drafts, but at least it's an interesting flip from Ole Miss to LSU.
Some other flips that maybe we don't care about too much, at least today, but I think are just worth noting. Washington saw some real movement at wide receiver. We already mentioned they brought in Jordan Clay. They bring in Trez Davis as well, most recently committed to Tulane, although he had decommitted from there within the past few weeks. Kind of fits the mold of the other wide receivers they have on that team. 6 foot 180. It's kind of the average size of everybody else on that team. We have him wide receiver 52. The composite has him wide receiver 40. Matt, I know you like him a little more than me. Interesting switch for him. I tweeted earlier after the Bay flip, not C2C Consulting approved. I believe this one would also not be C2C Consulting approved.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the flip from Tulane to Washington. I mean, you going into Tulane, granted, they obviously lose their head coach, John Summerall, so maybe he flipped before, he decommitted technically, right? Like he decommitted probably like a week ago at this point. So yeah,
a week or two. Yeah.
I mean, he decommitted before we knew for sure John Summerall was leaving. But I mean, you would think going into Tulane, he would have a chance to legitimately start day one and probably produce, and then at worst transfer up at some point, because I do think he needed a little bit more seasoning. I mean, going to Washington, I mean, what do they lose? Just Denzel Boston, really? Like, I mean,
in terms of like major contributors, I think that's really the only guy.
Desmond Roebuck's still there. Was it Chris Lawson and I forgot what his name is? Yeah. I mean, like they're both freshmen. So, like, I don't know that Trez Davis or Clay go in there and either one is really competing for a starting job. And granted, one thing I will say is if one of them does win a starting job, could be interesting for them. I mean, Damon Williams and Jed Fish are not afraid to throw the ball around. So, like, maybe that helps them in at least crossing some year 1-0 thresholds. But I think from our perspective, just with some of the refinement he needed and everything, staying at Tulane would have been the better decision.
Two come out, two come in, one go out, one goes out. Dre Pollard. We have him as a running back, but he is an athlete, and I had written down in my notes when I watched him that I thought he was maybe more of a offensive weapon anyway. I don't know that he's going to actually play running back in college, but flipped from Washington to Stanford here today. 6 foot 175, 58-ish percentile athlete in our database. Again, we have him RB 46. The composite has him still as an athlete. They haven't committed one way or the other on him yet. Athlete 19. So we're just worth noting there on that one.
Yeah. I mean, he plays defense as well, I believe, cornerback. So maybe we don't know for sure if he goes offense. I know we kind of pegged him as a running back, but also plays wide receiver in high school as well. So could go either way. I mean, a guy that Stanford maybe could use. We were, I forgot who did Stanford hire as their head coach? Or they haven't hired one.
They didn't fire anybody this cycle. It was last year.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. My bad. I was thinking about Cal, who we were talking about recently, which they did just hire their new head coach and did not go the way that we thought it was going to go. So I'll be interested to see which way he ends up playing. I don't have him super highly ranked.
It's it was Reich this year, and I don't know if they've officially hired the new guy yet or not. But they've had stuff lined up there for a while because this was like a year in the making. So, Sam in the chat says Jedfish has a losing record. Yeah, but he went 1-11 his first year at Arizona, and then since then he's been pretty good. And that Arizona team was about as bottomed out as a bottom out roster can be. So
he
wouldn't
turned him around pretty quick.
Yeah, wouldn't worry too much about that.
I mean, I wouldn't say DeMond had a bad year. I mean, it wasn't great, but I think if you look overall at what he had, thank you, Sams. Yeah, they did hire a new head coach. I thought so. Tavita Pritchard. For what he had around him, granted, yes, Denzel Boston is an absolute stud at wide receiver, but the offensive line was pretty bad, and he did have two good running backs. Bad offensive line, and in my opinion, no real wide receiver core around him besides Denzel Boston. I think overall DeMond Williams was fairly good. I expect him to be better moving forward.
I'd push back pretty heavily on the wide receiver stuff. I'd push back pretty heavily on that.
Okay. You think they were good? I did.
No studs. I think they're all like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 guys, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not like Denzel Boston. That's really all he had, in my opinion.
You got to run with wide receiver 2s out there too, Matthew.
Well, I understand that, but that's not true. I shouldn't say that anymore. Ohio State's about to be running with a bunch of wide receiver 2s and 3s now with everybody they're losing, but that's not true. Not everybody. But I guess Washington is not considered in the upper echelon of colleges as some of these others
are. Let's see here. Who else flipped today? Just real quick, 2 other ones. I think this actually technically happened maybe yesterday. Cash Herrera flipped from Indiana to Boise State. We talked about him a few weeks ago. This is a very much a floor guy. I don't really see much of a ceiling here at all. We have him as QB 58, which is actually, funnily enough, right in line with the composite. I don't know that we really need to talk about that too much, except for the fact that Boise had gotten all of their QBs essentially poached throughout the course of this recruiting cycle. So this is kind of them filling a spot that they desperately needed. So good for them there. And Jabari Barnett as well flipped from Alabama to Illinois. I had another one that was a snip snap, I believe, was Illinois, Alabama, back to Illinois. We're pretty low on him, RB 59 compared to RB 32 in the composite. So, but just worth mentioning there. Do you want to hit on the not signing today, guys, as well, Matt?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, then we'll maybe talk about some of our rankings or guys that actually we'll hit decommits first because we really just have 2 right now that are meaningful to us. I think Kentrell White being the first one, athlete, but going to be playing tight end in college. But one of those guys that's going to have to gain a significant amount of weight, 6'4", 210. Crazy athlete, 95th percentile in our database. But you can see the production score there, 4th percentile. Very, 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 very low. Not a guy that's, he's all projection at this point. We've got him tight end 27, which is technically 3 spots higher than the services, but I would say that we probably, of all the positions, and there will be movement over the next few weeks and months as we all kind of discuss internally. Tight end is probably the least firmed up. So take that for what it's worth. But he's a guy here who decommitted from Auburn. He's from the Georgia area, I believe, like the Atlanta area, if I remember correctly. We'll see if that's, if he stays local or not.
Yeah, he plays at Midtown in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, I'll be curious to see where he ends up going. I actually don't know if I have his grade in our database yet. I was looking at my notes on him. I don't have a super high grade on him, so I'm sure it'll come down a little bit because I do actually like this. I really do like this tight end class. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Right now, it looks like what? Oh, no, I was gonna see who was possibly in on him, but that looks like that's cool. I was gonna say Auburn, so be curious to see where he goes. I don't know. Did he announce if he's going to
sign like in the next 2 days or anything?
Yeah,
not that I saw in the report, but I didn't read that deeply either. I mean, he's my tight end 23. I've only graded firmly 24, so
gotcha.
I mean, just to give an idea of where he's sitting for me right now, he's not a high priority guy. Somebody who I think we do think a little highly of here at Campus2Canton is Kenny Darby, wide receiver. We are higher than the composite on him. We have him wide receiver 18. That's about 17 spots higher than he is in the 24/7 Sports composite right now. 6 foot, 175, out of Airline, Louisiana. So he's a local kid that was committed there to LSU, decommitted. You can see the production profile, 92nd percentile. He's been insanely productive over the course of his college career. Or his high school career. I don't have his senior stats officially down yet, but he had 100 catches for 1,764 yards and 24 touchdowns as a junior. And yes, none of those numbers are typos. I have double checked them. Yeah, I mean, we factor really heavily into the athleticism and the production, and so he's got at least one of those, and he's not a bad athlete either. 21 mile per hour we have him measured at. So that's an interesting one that he decommitted. Yeah, with Lane Kiffin coming in.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, again, we've kind of talked about this of late, and we mentioned it on C2C Live, Chris K and I, that typically the players down there in Louisiana are, I don't want to say like forced, but kind of like led to be like, hey, you guys should go to LSU. It's a very big deal. Just trying to pull this up. It doesn't look like all his games are in, but right now he is sitting at 51 catches for 547 yards and 9 touchdowns is what his senior stats show right now. Again, doesn't look like that's only about 8 games in there. So, never mind. That's rushing. Okay, apparently he's rushed the ball a little bit. 83 catches for 1,124 yards and 8 touchdowns. So that's a lot better. Very good season for him. Maybe not, again, 100-plus catches like he had last year. Very good season here in his senior season for Darby. He's a player that I really liked. Liked the landing spot at LSU as well. I talked about when we talked about him on the show. I thought he was a player who could start year one. I do have him as a high-end 3-star. I thought that, very good body control, really good in contested catches. He knows how to contort his body to make tough catches on the sideline, catches the ball away from his body, makes it look easy. I did mention he doesn't have a great release package, but he does do a good job at selling his routes, especially for the routes that he attacks at full speed, which does seem to throw defenders off at times, and he can be physical and win the ball. So he's a wide receiver that I really liked. I'll be watching closely to kind of see where he ends up going. I was trying to see if there was any reports on maybe who is in on him or when he may decide to recruit. Maybe this is just a thing to kind of see what LSU is going to look like and maybe see if Lane's going to come talk to him and maybe try and get him to stay, because I don't know where else he would be going or where he'd be looking, but definitely an intriguing player who's now available.
Yeah, I have savvy was like the first word that I kind of have written down in my notes on him. So I think I agree with a lot of that. Guys not signing today. Let's see who we have here. Zion Robinson, the Michigan wide receiver commit, who's out of North Carolina. It sounds like he is considering at least one school in the ACC. So we'll see how that ends up shaking out. We are about 50 spots lower than the composite on him. So just not a guy that really has an elite skill set at this juncture. Not a bad player, could end up being a good college football player, but maybe not somebody in the next couple of years that we see a lot out of is our thinking there. Carson Baker, running back, currently committed to Florida, and I don't think that he's officially decommitted, at least not that I saw, but he's waiting to sign until I believe Friday. Good athlete. You can see about 75th percentile athlete there. Production about 50th percentile in our database. We have him as RB24. It's about 9 spots lower than the composite. So we like him. We don't love him, but a guy that's not signing today. Calvin Russell, a name you might be familiar with as the 5-star that signed with Syracuse and is no longer a 5-star. 6'5", 195 out of the Florida area. We have him as wide receiver 25 in our rankings, which is about 16 spots lower than the composite. But decent athleticism metrics, decent production. Went once contextualized for the fact that he just started playing wide receiver, I believe, as a junior in high school. He's not signing today. We'll see what that looks like. I think if you're Syracuse, you get a little skittish once that starts happening. Was there one more? No, that's it. Okay. Oh yeah, the other one was Sadiq Bey or Legend Bay, and then I had to flip that. So
Gotcha.
there is that. There are some other ones as well. I guess I don't have them quite in that category since we're going to be talking about them later. But let's bring some of them up here. Let's see. Where's my wide receiver rankings? Chris Henry Jr. is not signing today with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Apparently was a little blindsided by the Brian Hartline news, wants to reconsider all of his options. We have him as wide receiver 2. I think, him and Keys are 1, 2 in pretty much any sort of rankings that you look at for good reason. Had a very nice bounce back here coming back from injury this year with Matter Day. Going to be interesting to watch Oregon firmly in play. I think Oregon's the only realistic flip spot.
Yeah, I mean, the report says Oregon and USC. I would think Oregon's probably the only one. Again, this is the one I think is going to hurt Ohio State more if it does happen. And it's understandable. Again, it sounds like I was actually getting text about this morning. It sounds like not a lot of people were aware that Brian Hartline was going to take that job. Happened a little bit before signing day, and then that has kind of really thrown – it looks like at least the wide receiver part of Ohio State's recruiting classes into a little bit of a funk here. They are, like I said earlier, lost Caden Dixon-Wyatt, Legend Bay at running back, but again, was probably going to play some wide receiver. Gilliford has not committed as well. I think forgot what his name is, Austin, the kid out of South Lake. I think he actually already signed. Not a guy that we were.
Brock something?
Yeah,
Brock Boyd?
Yeah, Brock Boyd, yeah. But obviously, no offense to any of those players. They're not Chris Henry Jr. Chris Henry Jr. had the chance to be the new Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State. Once Smith goes on next year, kind of be the guy, the focal point of the offense. And really, I think Ohio State's kind of whole wide receiver class was being based around this guy coming. So if they do end up losing him to Oregon, not only would that be a massive blow for them, but a massive win for Oregon to pair this guy with DeCorian Moore as their future for the next 2 years. We'll see if he ends up flipping. I haven't seen if he said he's going to make his decision anytime soon. So I think Ohio State's probably going to do everything they can to keep him. And I think that would be a very smart decision on their part. I think you mentioned him and Keys are like one or the other of those is the number one wide receiver for all the companies. Man, I have a 0.3 difference on them. That's it. Like Chris Henry Jr. is right there with Tristan Keys for me as the top 2 wide receivers in this class. Would really hate for the Buckeyes to lose out on this kid because I think he really is special.
Yeah, and I would say even if Ohio State if Ohio State loses Chris Henry and Dixon Wyatt, which has already been confirmed, it wouldn't make me feel better about the other wide receivers that they have in this class.
No, not at all.
That's not like a depth chart issue. Brock Boyd, and it does sound like Ricketts was considering WVU. I haven't seen any movement on that. I also would be lying if I said that I was, searching Jaden Ricketts this morning, and then Guilford as well. Ricketts and Guilford are amongst my lowest graded players, regardless of position in the entire class. Pure depth there. All right, let's talk, how some of these classes are shaping up, and we can do that just kind of by, we'll talk about some of our rankings mixed in here as we're going through. Let's start with QBs, and we're actually going to talk Jared Curtis here in just a second, because I know that's another story, but we've talked a lot about that over the past few weeks. We were pretty big believers in that happening once the smoke started appearing. But here's, as of today, are our top QBs overall, the top 12 in the class. And obviously, again, there will be movement here. We're not locked in here until March 1st when we release our yearly guide. That's when our rankings finally lock, although I wouldn't think there's going to be much movement on most of these guys here. Keyshawn Henderson is our top guy right now. Going to Houston, awesome athlete, 95th percentile, 96th percentile there. Had an incredibly productive year, really helped his production score. We have him over 80th percentile now on that. Talk about throw velocity. Again, you're kind of hoping for at least 52 to 55 miles per hour. We've got him at 57 max velo, so that's awesome. That's great there. The arm is more than good enough. Really good runner. Just kind of in terms of toolsiness at the position, he's kind of everything that you would want. I mean, I guess the downsides, low level of comp. But other than that, I think if things work out for him over the next few years, this is a really, really interesting prospect.
Yeah, I mean, I just recently moved Henderson to my quarterback one. I was battling with him, Jared Curtis, and I still had Dia Bell pretty high. I did drop Bell a little bit, not much. I was battling with those three. I think those three are easily the top of this class, and really like all three of them. But Henderson is just something special. And I think really too, him going to Houston, you know what, Connor Wigman has 1 year of eligibility left. I would think, based again on how the competition is, it plays at the Legacy School of Science here in Texas, that maybe they kind of do what Jonathan Smith did at Oregon State with Aiden Childs, maybe kind of get some packages for him, have him come into certain games. Actually, Jed Fish did this with DeMond Williams as well, right? In that first year at Washington, they had him come in for certain packages, allowed him to use his legs a little bit, his arm to kind of get him comfortable with the speed of the game. And then year two, hit the ground running as a starting quarterback. I would love if Houston did that. I would not be surprised if Henderson is starting day one for Houston next year, because I think he's just that talented. As Austin mentioned, I think the big fear you have to have is, again, it's really not good level of competition he is playing down here. So I'd be curious to see how he transitions. But again, he was won the MVP for, I believe it was the Navy All-American All-Star game last year, and is just having, I mean, when I say an incredible season this year, and I'll see if I can pull up his stats, I mean, he has been having a season of seasons. Again, we've talked about this on our show, The Official, go check it out on the Campus2Canton podcast feed. They do keep track, the Elite 11 keeps track of all these player stats. They tend to tweet them out. So Keyshawn Henderson right now is sitting with, let's see here. He is completing 75% of his passes. He is 215 for 285 for 3,393 yards with 39 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He has added 591 yards on the ground with 10 rushing touchdowns. Just an incredible athlete, an incredibly fun player to watch. I would imagine, now maybe this is a little bit crazy to say, but I'd imagine, do you think consensus? No, never mind. I was going to say consensus 1-1 off the board in supplemental drafts, but I think some people probably take Keys, maybe Henry, depending on what he does. But for me, I think he's probably going to be the top quarterback off the board for most of the C2C or the freshman supplemental drafts.
I would think that, yes, he'll probably be QB1 off the board. If he's not, it's going to be because of our good friend Jared Curtis. You can see that nice Vanderbilt logo right behind there, because that is where he flipped earlier this week. 6'3.5", 225 pounds. I mentioned earlier, in terms of velo, as you start creeping towards 60, you're getting more and more elite. We only have a handful of guys in the database that have over 60 mile per hour measured max velo, and he is one of them. Dude has an absolute cannon strapped to his arm. He's our QB2, but again, we see he's first according to the composite. I think this is another case, kind of like Keys and Chris Henry we were talking about earlier. These are the top two guys in some sort of order as of today. 95th percentile athlete in our database, Curtis is 88th, 89th percentile production score. I mean, you're just kind of going down the list and checking all the boxes. He's a guy that really hits all of them. He is, I believe, him and Henderson are both 5 stars for us. They, I believe, are the only 5 stars in the class at the QB position for us. Going to a Vanderbilt program that is apparently on the rise.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're just on the verge of missing out in the playoffs this year. They're going to have to add some weapons around him, I think. But overall, Curtis the rumors and talk have been that he wanted to go somewhere he was going to get to play early. That's probably going to happen. I know it's not been confirmed if Diego Pavia is coming back. And I do think if he does come back, Curtis probably sits for a year. But if you would have stayed at Georgia, there was a chance that he sat for 2 years behind Stockton, maybe Puglisi for a year. Maybe he battled Puglisi. We don't know what's going to happen there. But I mean, great mechanics. I wrote up about him in my notes, and I know we talked about it on the shows. Like if you wanted to teach someone how to move their whole body in concert and show them like what it's like to make a perfect pass, put Jared Curtis on, because this kid is incredible when it comes to his mechanics. And one of the other big things I put in here is you cannot understate how comfortable he looks in the pocket, passing the ball, even with defenders all around him. I think he's a great get for Vanderbilt. You know, as you said, we've been talking about this for a while, kind of hoping it would happen. Because again, I think it's a good thing for college football when players like this go to schools like Vanderbilt, and really could help Vanderbilt kind of now get over that hurdle they are so close to jumping over and making it into the playoffs. Again, I think even if Pavia comes back, he's got a chance to battle Pavia for the starting job. I would lean Pavia because he's been there for the past couple of years. But Jared Curtis is just a very, very good player. You know, you could argue deserves to be quarterback one in this class. I'd go Henderson just because a little bit more of that rushing upside. But as you mentioned, absolute cannon on this kid's arm. And I think right now I would find it very hard to believe doesn't end up in the NFL someday.
Yeah, he certainly has all the tools and everything. Where's the defense? Wildcat said, how about Oscar Rios as Noah Fafita's replacement? Boy has juice. You know, it's an interesting, going to be an interesting follow-up to Fafita, because I think like Fafita, there's probably, at least based on what we've seen so far of his career, very little actual pro NFL upside. You know, maybe he gets there. I don't think anybody here thinks that he's, you know, a true, you know, legit NFL draft prospect. We have him as our QB 27 in the class. We have him as listed. He's a 2-star in our ratings. So would not be a guy that for, you know, our purposes, fantasy purposes, we would really consider drafting at this particular juncture, but would certainly be a guy to maybe keep an eye on, you know, depending on, you know, is Arizona, was this year sustainable for next year? You know, will it carry over some of that stuff, the momentum? You know, will be interesting to watch.
As the Oscar Rios fan of the group here at Campus2Canton, I do have him graded as a draftable player. I do think he's an interesting fit for Arizona, specifically with what Fafita has done. He does bring some rushing upside. I do think that he throws a very catchable ball. I think his ball placement is insane. I really actually like where he places the ball. Does show some impressive layered throws. Again, rushing upside. He is very much a dual threat quarterback. The biggest issue is going to be, I mean, his arm velo is just, it's not great. He does not have the arm to challenge all the way down the field like Fafita does. I mean, Fafita can challenge all 3 levels. I don't think that Oscar Rios can, but he is very good in the short and intermediate parts of the field. And again, the rushing upside is really good for him. So I do think that he could come in and possibly do that. You know, where's the defense Wildcats? My biggest question would be, like, can Brennan keep that momentum going? I think it's fair to say maybe you guys did as Wildcats fans. I don't know how many people thought Arizona was going to be as good as they ended up being this year. So if he can keep that momentum going, I think Rios is definitely a good fit for the Wildcats and could be a very fun quarterback for them. But I don't disagree with Austin. I think the NFL upside is limited, but does not mean he cannot be a very good college quarterback.
Run through some of these guys kind of quick. Diabell didn't play a ton this year, suffered an injury that knocked him out after even fewer than a handful of games. But he has slid down a little bit. I believe he was our QB1 coming into the season. He is now our QB3. I mean, actually, interestingly enough, like kind of far away from being a 5-star. Like he's very, very firmly a 4-star at this point. I don't think he'll bounce back up. But, you know, good athlete, good production score there. You can see 53 mile per hour max velocity. So acceptable, not an amazing arm, but probably acceptable. You know, we've got him graded pretty similarly to the composite. And going to Texas, you know, I think their intention today is for him to be the guy after Arch Manning. But, you know, who knows at a school like Texas?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that hurt him for me, and I just mentioned we were talking about Keyshawn Henderson, Jared Curtis. Diabell, I had Curtis as my quarterback 1. Diabell was my quarterback 2. I did drop him a little bit. Not really playing most of his senior year hurt him. He, quote unquote, had an injury that they ended up having surgery on. I should mention, where's the defense Wildcats? I was trying to get this corrected. So Oscar Rios' velo has actually improved into his senior year. We have it at a 53, right around the same here as Diabell. So that is an improvement for him. I'm happy on that. Again, that's a college football average arm is the way we put it. But back to Diabell. You know, he had the injury. What did he played in like 3 games, I believe it was, right? Before he had the surgery.
Something like that. Yeah.
He did not look good in those 3 games, if we're being honest. He really kind of struggled. He wasn't really completing passes the way that we had seen him do in the previous seasons. He looked kind of confused at times. He seemed to panic a little bit in the pocket. He just did not quite look like the quarterback that I saw as a junior. Again, doesn't mean that he lost all that. Just took a small step back, and he's not necessarily even on, the athleticism kind of star rating as a Jared Curtis and Keyshawn Henderson are. So he's a player that I still really like. I would not be afraid to draft him because I do think he's going to fit what Sark likes to do. And I do trust Sark when it comes to quarterback. So still a player I really like, but yeah, definitely dropped a little bit compared to where I had him coming into his senior season.
Faison Brandon comes in at QB4 for us, and this is a guy that we are fairly split on in the group. He is a guy that I will say I think I'm the lowest of us, but I also he's one of the players that I haven't dipped into the senior year tape at all, and I probably would have a little earlier, except for he didn't play a bunch this year, so it hasn't necessarily been a priority for me. I believe he suffered a hand injury somewhere in the first few weeks of the season, is my recollection. But I mean, you can see here, like he's got a lot of the tools. The athleticism and production scores are both over 60th percentile. So maybe not quite where we want them, but not bad either. The arm velocity is pretty solid at 55 mile per hour. I think for me with him, some of the big things that are really, really scare me is like, he's a big time under pressure, float backward in the pocket guy. And that one to me is something that I don't think we see a lot of guys really fix after high school. Like that is almost an innate, reaction to whatever's happening, and that's not something that I think he's necessarily been successful at over the past few years. So that's like things like that are kind of some of the things that are going to be interesting to watch with him. But we also talked about it a lot this offseason with Joey Aguilar. We were like, we don't think Joey Aguilar is really any good, but pretty much anybody can run this Josh Heupel offense. And sure enough, I don't think Aguilar was particularly good this year, but he ran this offense at a decent enough level. So can Faison Brandon do that? I do think so. I have to think that they're going to try to put some sort of contingency plan in place. I don't think you can rule him out there year one, especially with him missing some of the senior season stuff with the hand. Like, I just don't know that he's quite there yet to be able to do that, at least not right off week one. You know, maybe later in the season, if they need to, they can make a pivot. Who knows?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would not throw him out there week one. I'm one of the ones who's a little bit higher on him. I don't know how much higher on him I am than you. I have him as a low end 4-star. Look, I think he's got really nice mechanics, specifically when it comes to his legs. He's got really good micro movements and typically plants to throw the ball. I think he has a very fluid release. Specifically is very good and puts very decent velocity on the short and intermediate throws. Really good pocket manipulation, in my opinion. I do think displays some high IQ with the way he throws to his wide receivers and makes his reads. Definitely loses a lot on his deep throws, though. Seems to go more for the placement approach instead of leading his receivers, especially when they've already beaten their defenders. Many of his receivers have to stop or come back on the ball, which, again, I think is a little bit lack of arm strength. Not what you want from a quarterback in the Josh Heupel offense, though. That is something I've talked about recently and why I think some of the other quarterbacks have struggled. Nico, Joe Milton. I mean, don't get me wrong, both had cannons, but they could not hit their wide receivers accurately down the field. And I think that is where that offense has struggled, where, as you just mentioned with Joey Aguilar, maybe not the greatest quarterback, but like he was at least hitting his wide receivers in stride the way he needed to. I think Faison Brandon could struggle with that, but on the opposite side, not quite having the arm to get it to where it needs to go, but does throw a lot of really catchable balls. Again, I think really high IQ. We'll be interested to see what he ends up doing next year if he doesn't get any chance to play. I don't disagree. I think, he's a fit for the Josh Heupel offense. I think if they give him the opportunity, could be decent.
QB5, Bo Bentley going to Oklahoma. Kid that we like. We talked about coming into the season. Didn't have a ton of experience. Played pretty well this year. We don't have a firm production score on him. But the athleticism score is decent. We got the 55 velo. I mean, we're right in line with the services. Another kid that, get him in there for a year or two, I think can run this Arbuckle offense.
Yeah, is having a very good senior season down here in Texas for Salina, Texas. Very interesting player. I think could be John Mateer, maybe with a little less of the running. I don't think he's quite the runner that John Mateer is, but I think could definitely do the same thing. But Vanderbilt's flipping a bunch of wide receivers, by the way. I just saw this. But could be a very good quarterback for Oklahoma. I think the future quarterback. I don't think it's Hawkins.
next up here, and we didn't mention him earlier in the show, but is a guy that's not signing today, which I think is interesting because BYU did retain head coach Kalani Sitake this week. So
Yeah.
don't know what that's quite all about. His brother's at USC, but I don't know that that's the issue. Like, that's in the cards. I don't know. But Lyons is our QB6. He's a fascinating one to discuss because, that 60th percentile ish athleticism score, very, very productive. But at times, just like it doesn't seem like the play style is going to be sustainable moving to college, and he's going on a mission and missing 1 year instead of 2, at least apparently is the way that he's headed. So makes for a difficult evaluation in terms of, if you really believe, the last QB that went on a mission that made it to the NFL, I can't think of one off the top of my head. The reps and the experience and all that stuff matters quite a bit. So he's here at QB6 for us. I think we're going to have a lot of internal discussions as to what that looks like moving forward.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys who is very high on Lyons, just because of the quarterback prospect that he is. Really good in the pocket, really good pocket manipulation, quick release, can't extend the play. He throws off platform from multiple arm angles, just doesn't really seem to lose any accuracy or velocity when he is doing that. I really like him as a player. But as you mentioned, quarterback is the one position I think you have to get as many reps as possible. And going on, even if it ends up just being a year mission, that is really going to hurt him, I think, in his future growth and development. I also do agree it's kind of interesting that he has not signed yet for BYU. Does he, because I actually don't know the answer to this, I don't know if you do, Austin. If he flips to, say, a USC where his brother's at, does he still have to go on the mission, or is he allowed to?
Yeah, it's a religious thing, not a BYU thing. Didn't they? They just had Jake Retzloff there who didn't go on a mission. So yes, every young Mormon is supposed to go on a mission.
Supposed to, though. That's what I was just checking. Maybe he figures the way out of it. That's all I was wondering.
If there's a group of religious folks that have certainly found loopholes for other things that maybe their religion doesn't allow them to do, maybe the mission is on the list. I am far from an expert on that, so just going to move on before we get ourselves into trouble. Jake Fett, QB7, Arizona State kid, kind of a gamer. I think he's a really kind of good match for Dillingham.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because of Sam Levitt. There are rumors that he's exploring the portal, and there were rumors that maybe Dillingham would be too, but
yeah,
I don't think that that's going to happen. All the bigger jobs for the most part have been filled up at this point. So I think Dillingham's back, and Fett a nice match there with him.
Yeah, the only one that has filled yet was Penn State. That would really hurt my feelings if
they're far enough down the list here that they've definitely asked, right? They've asked.
You would think.
I got a 717 phone call earlier. I'm not sure if that was from them or who that was.
I would really hope Dillingham doesn't end up going to Penn State. Maybe they haven't reached out to him yet. Maybe they have. By the way, if he did, though, Peyton Valzone would be even more intriguing to me. I love Jake Boba Fett here. One of my favorite quarterbacks in the class. I don't know if I'm still the highest on him, but I was. I think he's calm and cool under pressure, especially when things break down. He thrives. Good ball placement on deep throws when flushed out of the pocket. Shows the ability to pass with ease on the move without losing velocity or accuracy. Is having a pretty good senior season as well. Definitely not quite, at least in my opinion, what Sam Levitt was coming out of high school, but still a very good quarterback, and I think will thrive in the Arizona State offense. Don't know if we'll see him as a true freshman, but I've said before, I don't think Arizona State has their future quarterback currently on their roster. Jake Fett is now on their roster. I think he could be, but 28-2 touchdown to interception ratio this year. Do you know how many rushing yards he has this year?
Fett?
Yes.
No.
It'll shock you. 1,105 with 18 rushing touchdowns.
Good for him.
It's been a lot different. I don't think we've really seen that out of him the past couple years. So I think a very, very interesting player here for Arizona State. One of my sleepers in the class. Not really a sleeper for us. We have him at QB8, you said, or 7. Absolutely love the kid, though.
And man, I messed that. I think this is the only one I messed this up on, unfortunately, the image there. But here's Travis Burgess, QB8. Gotcha. Missed toward the ACL in September, I believe. So, these guys come back pretty quick now, but it feels like a guy that it's probably redshirting year one just to be safe. He is the highest rated player in UNC's recruiting class, at least as of this morning, was for sure. I don't think they've had any like big flips. So really productive kid. I think we talked about this when we talked about him on the official, because we've kind of been going through the class and doing that. He's a guy that, like, we only have the 53 velo, but I think there are some mechanical tweaks to be made there that would unlock a couple extra mile per hour for him. So that, and it's already kind of, okay enough. So could get a little bit better there. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what he does there at UNC and what that whole thing looks like over the next few months and stuff, because it wasn't going well, and then it kind of got a little bit better, but it's still not going great. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the big question for me is, as we watch him kind of recover from the injuries, does he stay committed to UNC? I would not be surprised if maybe Bill Belichick's out next year and he goes somewhere else. I believe he's from the area, right? Like, he's one of the ones that, or am I thinking of Bryce Baker? I can't remember where Burgess played high school at, but yeah, I think he's a very intriguing player. If he comes back healthy, I would love to see what he ends up doing, whether he stays at UNC or ends up transferring out somewhere else.
QB9 for us is Landon Duckworth, and there are some flip rumors going around as well. I actually didn't see if he's even officially signed. I guess I can check that quick here as we're talking about him. It would be pretty detrimental to South Carolina's class if that weren't to happen. Yeah, it still says hard commit for him, so I don't think he's officially signed yet. QB9 for us, good athleticism score. Production score is a little bit low. We talked about when we talked about him going through the class, there are some issues with he throws the changeup pretty much exclusively, which is a bit concerning. But he can run around a little bit. He's good at throwing in rhythm and with timing, all that kind of stuff. So, I think sitting a year, he's a guy that maybe we see a team try out there in year 2.
Yeah, not a guy that I'm a big fan of. I'd kind of questioned what he was going to be able to do when he was going to the Elite 11. He has been committed to South Carolina since 2023. It's very rare for quarterbacks to commit in their sophomore seasons, is something that Landon Duckworth did. So it's something to monitor. He has not officially signed yet with South Carolina. Do think he's got a chance to play early with South Carolina. Again, I don't know what Sellers does. Maybe he comes back for one more year and then the reins are handed over to Duckworth, assuming Beamer's still there, if he stays committed. Something to watch. Not a quarterback I'm super high on, though. The upside's limited, I think.
Derek Zammit is a QB10 for us, and he's an interesting one because like the data on him is really freaking good, amongst the best in the class. I mean, you can see here, 80th percentile athlete, 56 mile per hour max throwing velocity. He's got 92nd-ish percentile production score there. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but I wouldn't necessarily say small enough to be like undersized, quote unquote. Just not that prototypical build. Going across the country to Washington, but the senior year was a little up and down for him, and he wasn't particularly good in the Elite 11. And again, that's just one data point. It doesn't always necessarily say, everything about a player, but it is a little concerning when a guy visibly goes in and struggles at Elite 11, and Zammit, I think, did for most of it. But I mean, I guess QB class falls off pretty quick, and those scores are going to just boost him up. I mean, look, we're 17 spots ahead of the composite on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a major part of his production has been the rushing, over 600 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. He struggled a little bit as a passer this year, not something we saw out of him. Even actually, one of the things I did in his write-up or talked about was how good he is kind of like out of structure. He does definitely do that hero ball, but kind of thrives in it. Seemed to struggle a little bit more with that this year. Only 1,800 passing yards this year with 11-7 touchdown interception ratio. He's actually third right now, at least out of the Elite 11 quarterbacks in interceptions. So not necessarily having a great senior season, but still believe in the player. And most importantly, believe in Jed Fish. Like, I think he could go up to Washington and produce somewhat close to what possibly DeMond Williams has done, if not maybe a little bit better.
QB 11 for us. Hey, held the pit. Okay. I can, maybe, rumors that Cade Bell's leaving, rumors he's going to take Heisman Heinschel with them. We don't care. We've got Corey Daly coming in next year, 6'6", 190, a taller, lankier kid out of Texas. 81st percentile athleticism score and 98th percentile production, though. Again, are really going to help him as we're kind of sorting through this. You can see that arm velo, 59 mile per hour. So very, very good. We're 21 spots ahead of the composite. I think just a really well-rounded player. He's not, for the record, in my top 12, but he's not too far outside of it. Seguin, is that how you say it? Seguin, Texas.
Yeah, Seguin. Yeah. You're asking the wrong person. I'm like Colin Decker over here trying to pronounce things.
You live there.
Seguin,
not in his town, but
I didn't even know there was a Seguin, Texas in Texas.
At least that's his high school.
Texas is a big state, bud. Big state.
Excuses. But kid with good mobility, good arm, can do a lot of the fun arm slot, modern type stuff on that side of things.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting to see, just what Pitt look like over the next few years would be a question for him.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing will be what happens with Heisman Heinschel, and if he'll have to sit for a couple years. I actually don't have Corey Daly graded. He's on my list of players. I think he's like the third on the list of players to get watched. I'm excited to go in there and watch him. Big guy, 6'6", or at least tall, 6'6", 190. But yeah, that arm velo at 59. I mean, that's very close to that elite number of 60.
And then QB12 for us is Darian Coleman. Smaller guy. Some of the size stuff it hurts the athleticism score, but he's been very productive. Good arm. We're a little higher than the composite. Undersized would be a bit of an understatement. He needs to gain some weight at minimum, but shades of DeMond Williams out of high school in terms of how he plays.
Yeah, 100%. I think the only thing that fears me, or the only thing that I am scared about with him is, going to Miami. Will they let him kind of thrive in playing a little bit like the way DeMond Williams does? And I guess they let Cam Ward do that a little bit. I don't expect him to play as a freshman. And that is the other part that worries me with him not playing as a freshman. We have seen over the past couple of years, Mario Cristobal is definitely not been afraid to go into the portal and bring in other quarterbacks. So does Coleman actually get his shot? He's, I believe, the highest rated quarterback that they've recruited over the past couple of years. So I'm hoping he does. But that's kind of a concern right now, is what that looks like when it comes to just his future. And if they end up bringing in a transfer quarterback.
The Hammer says, looks like Marcel Reed. That's not a bad comp either, in terms of kind of these undersized scrambling type running backs. And then you're just kind of taking the gamble that the passing and some of the weight gain and all that kind of stuff will come along with it. So yeah, not bad comp either.
Yeah, not at all. I would say the only thing I would give Coleman, again, this is, I don't want to compare college and high school. Coleman's very, very good completion percent, or I say a good completion percentage in high school, 71.7%. So 22. By the way, that he has not thrown a interception this year. One of the only quarterbacks, like obviously, Faison Brandon doesn't have one, but he's been injured. 22-0 touchdown to interception ratio. He's having a really, really good senior season.
Good. Yeah, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Top 12 running backs. I think we'll probably move through these a little bit quicker. But we do have 2 5-stars here again in this group. RB1 Xavier Crowell and RB2 Savion Hitter going to Alabama and Michigan, respectively. I mean, you can look at Crowell. He's actually a guy that's reclassified up, so he's a year young for the class. 95th percentile athlete, 70th percentile production. We've got him measured over 22 miles per hour, which is very, very fast. I believe that's 95th plus percentile speed score. So he's our RB1. He is probably the best high school running back prospect since Bijan. Does that feel fair to say? I would think. I think he's probably our highest graded guy we've had, because we came around right after Bijan. So we don't have like a grade on him, but I think he would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I've only graded 2 other 5-star running backs, but he graded in higher than both of those. That would have been Justice Haynes and Cedric Baxter. I actually think I had. That's not true. I can't remember if I had Henderson as. Oh, we didn't do 5. We didn't do grades like that first year. My bad. So
it was rankings. It wasn't the grades.
I would say I could go back and look, but I'm almost positive he's my highest graded right now. So I love Xavier Crowell. I think it's a great landing spot too. I mean, that probably over the past couple of years, we wouldn't have said Alabama's backfield is kind of lacking for a star running back. They are as of late. I think Crowell could easily step in as a true freshman and be the guy for the Crimson Tide.
hitter going to Michigan, missed the first few weeks of the season with a very minor injury and then came back and was really, really good.
Yeah.
He's going to play as a freshman. I think it's going to be him and Jordan Marshall as the rotation next year. That's a pretty good group.
Yep, agree 100%. Both of them should be very good. I mean, we saw how good Marshall was at times this year. Justice Haynes, improved his draft stock immensely by making that move to Michigan. They're always going to have a really good offensive line. I think Hitter's going to have a great freshman season and be a great running back for that team up north. Did a video for him on our YouTube channel, and as a Buckeye fan, it hurt me to talk about how great of a move I think this is for him.
RB3 and RB4 for us are both Notre Dame commits. Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton are RB3 and RB4. Osborne, if you want to comp them to recent Notre Dame running backs, think Osborne is, and wow, his name just went, Jadarian Price, and Walton is Estime. Really in terms of play style, Walton a little more of a straight line, packs a punch, has soft hands though as well. I mean, he can catch the ball really well. And Price, I had this even before he'd committed to Notre Dame. Osborne reminded me a lot of Jadarian Price at high school. So that's the duo they're bringing in next year. I think they're better than every other running back that's on the roster right now. But I know that staff has said that they like Nolan James. They like the big guy who missed this past season with a knee injury, whose name is escaping me. There's some guys that they apparently like there. So, whether they play initially or not is up for debate, but I think they're the most talented running backs that are going to be on that roster next year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I am a big Walton fan. Was it Nace Williams, right?
Oh yeah, Aeneas Williams is still there too. And I do like him quite a bit. So Keidron Young is the big back.
There we go.
Year. Yep.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Walton. You mentioned he can do it all. Very, very good hands, very good receiver out of the backfield. And I think, does have some surprisingly quick feet and very good micro movements for a big back. And one of the things for anybody who's followed us since the back in the Debbie debate days, love me a running back with some good vision. I think Jonas Walton has incredible vision. I think both these guys are going to be really good for the Fighting Irish.
RB5 is Derek Cooper for us. And like these running backs, it's really funny. We're right kind of in lockstep with the services here at the top, more or less. It drops off extremely quickly. I actually really think the drop off happens at Cooper, who we are is decently down into the 3 stars for us in terms of what that grade looks like. But 50th percentile athlete, 33rd percentile. I think he's basically a worse CJ Baxter, like stylistically, in terms of like kind of being a little tight hipped, kind of being a little more of a linear athlete, but bigger and physical. And once they kind of get moving, that long speed can kick in. It's just some of the short area stuff is a little more difficult for them. So I mean that's essentially I think what Texas is getting, just basically a CJ Baxter if you rolled back the clock 2 years ago, and I just don't think he's quite as explosive.
Yeah, I would not expect him to do much as a true freshman. Did play both ways, played linebacker and defensive back as well. I do think he's got some impressive bursts in the short areas of the field. Does at times avoid defenders, great contact balance, seems to bounce off defenders, does show some quick feet in tight situations. But I'm just not expecting a ton out of him as a true freshman. Although that room is not great. So maybe he's able to go into Texas and do something. I mean, Gibson did nothing this year. CJ Baxter has looked, unfortunately since the injury, just not like the same running back. I think Wisner's gone after this season. So maybe Cooper does get a shot to be the running back for the Longhorns here, but not a guy I'm super high on.
Deshaun Rideau at 6. He's headed to USC. 5'10", 195 pounds. Very, very good athlete, 85th-ish percentile. We had a production score and it's no longer there. So I don't know if some of the numbers have shifted around. As of a couple weeks ago, we had like a production score of like around 80th percentile. So I'd imagine once we crunch some more of the numbers that will finish, at least in the decent range there. He's I think an unspectacular player. He's good. He can be a good college running back. He can make it to the NFL for sure. But I don't know that he's some obvious high-end talent, as are really none of these running backs that we're going to talk about over the next few slides here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rideau can believe Catch the ball, really good in the short areas of the field. Did have a very good junior season, as you mentioned, over 1,200 rushing yards with 17 touchdowns, 131 receptions in last year. We'll see what his senior stats end up coming out to be, but an interesting back for USC. Kind of fits in the mold of backs that Lincoln Riley goes and gets.
RB7 is KJ Edwards. We're 4 spots lower than the composite on him overall. Good athlete, but the production has not been there with him really at all. Good top speed on him. He is like an undersized straight line kind of guy at running back. I think he can play and be a pretty good player for Texas A&M. And there's some NFL upside there as well with him, but not, again, we're going to just keep saying, the running back class falls off pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, good contact balance for a little bit of a thinner back. I think he's more of a slasher type running back, more of a one cut and go guy, but can make moves in the open field and fairly good receiver as well. So interesting get for the Aggies, who also I think are kind of lacking in the running back room. You know, they've been relying a lot on EJ Smith this year to kind of be that guy. So wouldn't be surprised if we see Edwards as a true freshman doing a little bit of something for the Aggies if they don't go into the portal.
RB8, this is one of our kind of bigger differences with the services at running back. LaMarcus Bell, we're 27 spots ahead of the composite on him. And you can see, 98th, 99th percentile producer in high school out there in Oregon, I believe. 65th percentile athlete. He's got pretty decent size at 5'11", 190. And unlike some of these other little undersized guys that we've talked about, like he kind of has that stockier build that looks like maybe it can get to a weight that we prefer a little more. So yeah, going to Utah, I think this is a guy that we are, excited about going there and kind of being a guy that can feature there in a year or two.
Yeah, he is a running back that I think is going to fit very well in the Utah offense. A very patient runner, really good burst, good balance or good vision, really good contact balance. Is very physical, specifically in the hole. Exactly what you want from a Utah running back. Does play in Oregon, so a player that I think will end up being a guy that we really enjoy having on our rosters in C2C leagues. Maybe not be a guy that's talked about a lot throughout the college football landscape, but I think for us in C2C and CFF, we'll really enjoy having him on our team.
I'm going to skip RB9, but that's Christian Rhodes. I think we're kind of in tandem with the services to go to another guy that we're a lot higher than, is kind of a call our shot guy. And again, these aren't final rankings. They'll maybe shift around a little bit, but we really like this kid, another kid who's not signing today, and Jamarcia Plater. He was committed to Wake Forest and then decommitted a few weeks ago. And there are some shades of Damon Claiborne with him. Although not the same staff that obviously recruited Claiborne, but 5'9", 190, 78th, 79th percentile athlete, and the production 96th percentile. We've got a good mile per hour time on him and 29 spots ahead of where the services are. We'll see where we get a good landing spot on him. Maybe that'll change our opinion a little bit of him. I know he's been looking at a couple different places. I also saw Colorado was on the list, and I would consider him deeply unserious if he were to do that.
Yeah. Colorado would definitely not be a good spot for him to go. He's not a player that I have graded currently, but from what you guys have said about him and the production score and everything, he's going to be a very interesting player. We will watch to see what he does. Again, I think, making the move, if you make the move, not going to Wake Forest and end up going to Colorado is probably a detriment. You should have consulted the C2C consulting firm.
Amari Latimer was a guy that I think some people were saying was potentially flipping today or was on Flip Watch, but I don't think that's happened. He hasn't signed, so I guess it still could, but he's currently still committed to Wisconsin. You could see the athleticism and production scores there, 95th percentile, 95th percentile, good size at 230. Again, another guy that I think is a bit, it's like a beefy straight line guy who isn't actually that physical. It's a very interesting profile all around. He's got very good hands. We're 8 spots higher than the composite on him. Matt, I know you're big on him. I know the other guys are bigger. I am solely responsible for Amari Latimer probably not being like our RB5 because I have a not deathable grade on him, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, look, 21.8 miles per hour. I think that he's got a little bit of juice. I think he can be a true 3-down back. I don't know that we see a ton of those in the college football landscape anymore, as you mentioned, is he can catch the ball. Not something that Wisconsin running backs get to do a lot of anyways, but he can do that. I think that once he gets going, he is very hard to stop. I do think he's a very physical runner. Again, really good pass catcher. Did play multi-sports. I believe his basketball and track was the other one. I was trying to pull up my stuff on him here, but I just think is a very good running back, really patient. I think he's got a very good feet when it comes to kind of switching gears and hitting the cutback lane. So running back that I really liked, especially with where he's going to Wisconsin. I think he fits perfectly with what Wisconsin's looking for out of their running back.
RB12 for us is Brian Bonner, not a guy that I have a ton of comments on. Kind of a home run hitter, maybe close to offensive weapon, not like a true running back at this point, but a dynamic athlete and somebody that you can, do some different things with there at Washington. It's interesting. For a while, he was looking like he might go to Notre Dame as well, and there would have been 3 guys in this class. So
yeah,
this is better than the alternative.
Yeah, probably smart on his part to not go to Notre Dame, as Osborne and Walton are much better than him, and it should pair very well with Adam Muhammad, I think, moving forward for the Huskies offense. A very different running back.
I want to highlight, because we're going to get out of here in about 10 minutes or so. We are hard capped on time here today, but again, we'll be on again tonight at 8:30, and we'll be talking about a bunch of different stuff. So I would say tune in for that. I want to touch on, as we go through the wide receivers here, and here's our top 12, just some of the guys that were a little off of where the services are, I would say. Keys and Henry 1 and 2. Naeem Burrows is a pretty clear 3 for us, and then Booby Feaster comes in right behind him at 4. Jalen Lott at 5, the Oregon commit. Davian Gross, and he's actually another guy. I don't know if he committed today or not. Trying to track, hundreds of names here this morning before the show. He did sign with Florida today, so he is headed there. Jace Matthews is not signing today, but he's a guy that we can mention here, going right now committed to Auburn. Vance Spafford going to Miami. Sidarian Morgan going to Alabama. Craig Dandridge for Georgia. Samson Gash, another guy not signing today. Michigan State, he's on flip watch with maybe Alabama interested in him. And then Chase Campbell for Texas Tech. Spafford is the big one, like that we're really far off the services. Him and Gash I believe, are like the 2 biggest gaps for us. Spafford, you can see there, been highly productive. Almost the best production score in our database at the wide receiver position. And obviously that factors in, not just sheer numbers, but also the level of competition and all of that kind of stuff. So, almost 100th percentile out of him, but that 15th percentile athlete. I think the thing that we're going to have to, again, this will be an internal discussion. We'll certainly, and we'll relay this. It's not hush hush. Yeah. It feels like the slot role would be the best one for him at Miami, but surprise, Miami just found, the steal of the class in Malachi Toney last year. So, who plays in the slot. So what does that look like moving forward? But a guy that we have 26 spots higher than the composite because of how good he's been.
Yeah, he's been incredible to watch. Plays for Mission Vallejo. In fact, he's been so good, he got Luke Fahey to Ohio State. I don't know that it's because of Luke Fahey. It's that good of a quarterback.
I love Luke Fahey. I wish it wasn't Ohio State. I think he's good. I agree.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he wasn't, I think Vance Spafford got him to Ohio State. If he wasn't going to Ohio State, I would like Fahey a lot more as well. He's like Lincoln Keenholz for us, right? Like, he's a very good quarterback, just not Ohio State level. I think is the way to put it. But I love Vance Spafford. I think he's a really good and missed some time too earlier this year with an injury. I think it was like 2 games at the start of the season. Came back, has played really well. Incredibly technically sound route runner. Really good deception within his routes. Knows when to sink his hips. Really quick feet and explosive out of his breaks. Can be a deep threat as well. I think he's a very cerebral route runner as well. Like I love watching Vance Spafford play. Could be a very, very fun player there with Malachi Toney in that Miami offense next year.
Gash is the other one if I had to guess, I would think he ends up flipping.
I would think so.
Just because of everything that's shifted over the past few weeks and months at Michigan State. And he is a Detroit kid, but awesome athlete, 88th, 89th percentile, awesome production, a high mile per hour. We're 44 spots ahead of the composite for him. And I think, the fact that Alabama's pushing for him kind of shows that, the composite at wide receiver 55 might be a little too low on him overall. Can do a lot of different stuff. I think the tools are there to be more than just deep and gadget guy.
Yeah.
He's a fun player. So going there again, not signing today. We'll see where he ends up landing, if he even signs in the next couple of days, or if this is a February guy on signing day. Not sure exactly what his plan is. I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. Yeah, speed. I mean, this guy is extremely athletic, very, very good speed. Can use a return man. I believe he played some outside wide receiver and some slot, also played defensive back. My biggest question with him has just been he really needs to kind of refine that route running. I feel like they used him in kind of gadgety ways in high school, didn't necessarily help him develop that route tree, which I don't know would get developed at Michigan State either. So I wouldn't hate the flip to Alabama. I think it would be a good thing for him. And I mean, we'll see. Pat Fitzgerald is now taking over at Michigan State. I don't know that he's a wide receiver that kind of fits what at least Fitzgerald did at Northwestern, but he probably didn't get players like this as well. I mean, Gash is an incredible athlete. So maybe he would actually thrive at Michigan State.
Tight ends. Our top 12, I thought that was a fun picture. Matt Ludwig went with it. Who's committed to Michigan there.
Dude's arms are bigger than my head.
And he's only a high schooler. That's the scary part when you think about some of these guys. Mark Bowman is our top tight end, but not by a lot. Ian Premer is right behind him. And then I think you'll see an interesting, mishmash of who prefers who in this group, but it's a very deep group of tight ends this year. Caden Prothrow going to Georgia, Max Sutter to Bama, Matt Ludwig there going to Michigan, rocking the cowboy hat. He's out of Montana or South Dakota or something like that. So somewhere up that direction where it's cold and mountainous, and I wouldn't want to go. Gavin Mueller, who recently flipped from Colorado to Miami, a guy that we mentioned a couple weeks ago on the official that scored like 30 touchdowns as a senior. It's only like really his second year playing football, and he's 6'5", 250 and is like ripped and an amazing athlete. But I can actually bring up here's Mueller's card. 93rd percentile athlete, 89th percentile production score. We've got him over 21 miles per hour moving at that size. I think a very, very interesting player. I bumped him up to my tight end. He's my tight end 4 right now, behind Bowman, Premer, and Ludwig. And that honestly might feel a little bit light. There's just not we don't have a lot to work off on him, but the stuff that we do have is like all insane. So
yeah, I mean, he might end up being my tight end 3 or 2. As much as I love Bowman, I mean, just the upside on Mueller alone is intriguing. As you mentioned, really has only played football for the 1 year. Incredible athlete. As you mentioned, 30 touchdowns this last year. And I think it's a great flip to Miami. We've seen them really be able to get the best out of some of these just athletic tight end freaks. Again, that was obviously before the Mario Cristobal era for the most part. But I still think that they will be able to do a lot here with Mueller. Very, very exciting prospect. And I can't wait to go back in and watch more of him. I think is going to end up higher than tight end 6 for sure. I think this is probably the low point for him currently. And at the end of our process and everything, when our freshman supplemental guy drops, I expect him to be within that 2 to 4 range at worst.
In terms of other guys on our top 12 here, Kendry Harrison going to Oregon. He is the tight end 1 according to the composite, I believe. We're just a little bit lower on him. Tyler Ruxer going to Oklahoma, Hayden Vircher going to Arizona State, Jack Severs going to Wisconsin, Javian Martin, who I believe recently flipped to Houston, and then Brock Harris going to BYU. So that is the grouping there. Well, I think, in an hour and a half, I think we got through pretty much most of the important news today. I think, again, we'll be on later tonight with some more folks in the group, and we'll touch on some of these topics and some other ones as well. So thank you guys to everybody who joined in today. We'll be keeping you posted on any other news that breaks here throughout the day on early signing day. And from Matt and from Austin, we'll see you guys tonight.
Yep. See you tonight.